In the heart of the city, tucked away on a quiet street, there was a small, upscale restaurant. It was a Friday night, and the soft jazz music weaving through the air couldn't quite mask the weariness in Amara's eyes. Amara, a bright and diligent waitress, was working her final shift of the week. She moved with a practiced grace, a warm smile for every guest, a quick hand to clean every spill. She did everything right, pouring her heart into her work. But in a world that often judges too quickly, some people don't see your effort or your worth. They only see the color of your skin. Her manager, a man named Mr. Collins, was one of those people. He wore his arrogance like an expensive, ill-fitting suit. He seemed to take a cruel pleasure in belittling Amara, often mocking her accent with a smirk or whispering racist jokes just loud enough for her to hear. He consistently took credit for her hard work, presenting her ideas as his own during staff meetings. Tonight, his prejudice took a more sinister turn. He cornered her near the kitchen, his voice laced with accusation. He accused her of stealing customer tips, a baseless claim he threw at her without a shred of proof. Amara stood her ground, though her voice trembled slightly. "Sir, I would never steal," she said, her integrity shining through her fear. "You can check the register, check the cameras. Everything is accounted for." But Mr. Collins wasn't interested in the truth. He was interested in power, in asserting his dominance, his face contorted with anger. "Don't you dare talk back to me!" he snarled, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "You people think you can get away with anything, don't you?" The insult hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. As Amara tried to turn and walk away, to de-escalate the situation and escape his venom, he lunged forward. His fingers wrapped around her wrist like a vice, his grip shockingly tight. He began to drag her, pulling her away from the relative safety of the bustling dining room and toward the dimly lit hallway that led to the staff bathrooms. The clatter of cutlery stopped. The low hum of conversation died down. The entire staff froze, a gallery of shocked and fearful faces. No one moved. No one spoke up. Amara's desperate plea echoed down the hallway, a stark cry in the sudden silence. "Let me go!" Then, a heavy door slammed shut, and the only sound that followed was the muffled sound of her crying. But someone had seen. At a quiet table near the entrance, a man in a crisp black suit slowly set down his coffee cup. He had been there for over an hour, observing everything with a calm, unnerving stillness. His gaze had followed every interaction, every subtle act of cruelty Mr. Collins had directed at Amara. This man's name was Lorenzo, and he was Amara's husband. What no one in that restaurant knew, what Mr. Collins could never have imagined, was that this gentle-looking man, who sat so quietly, was the head of a powerful and influential family, a man whose reach extended far beyond the walls of this small establishment. With a quiet grace that belied the storm brewing within him, Lorenzo rose from his seat. Every eye in the room was now on him as he began to walk toward the back hallway. His footsteps were deliberate, each one echoing in the silent restaurant like a ticking clock. His eyes, once warm and observant, were now cold steel. His silence was more terrifying than any shout, a promise of a reckoning that was about to unfold. He reached the bathroom door and pushed it open without hesitation. The scene inside was exactly as he had feared. Mr. Collins had Amara cornered, his face a mask of rage. When he saw Lorenzo, he froze. All the color drained from his face as a primal fear took hold. Lorenzo's voice was low, controlled, and utterly chilling. "You touched my wife." Mr. Collins began to stutter, his arrogant demeanor crumbling into a pathetic pile of excuses and desperate apologies. He babbled, he pleaded, he shook uncontrollably, finally understanding the catastrophic mistake he had made. But Lorenzo didn't shout. He didn't raise his voice or a hand. Violence was too crude, too simple for what he had in mind. Instead, he simply took out his phone. With a calm and steady hand, he made a single call. "I'll let justice handle this," he said, his eyes never leaving the manager's terrified face. Within minutes, the restaurant's front doors swung open. Two impeccably dressed men in black suits entered. Not mobsters, but Lorenzo's private security team. They were discreet, professional, and they began recording everything on their phones, documenting the scene for the authorities who were already on their way. By the next morning, the story was spreading like wildfire. The footage captured by Lorenzo's team was undeniable. The restaurant owner, horrified and facing a public relations nightmare, fired Mr. Collins on the spot. The disgrace was swift and total, but Lorenzo's response wasn't finished. A week later, news circulated that the restaurant had been sold. It was purchased by a mysterious and very wealthy investor named Lorenzo De Luca. When Amara walked in for what would have been her next shift, the entire staff stopped and stared. But she wasn't wearing her waitress uniform. She was dressed in a chic power suit, walking not with weariness, but with an unshakable confidence and grace. On her finger, a ring gleamed under the restaurant lights. She smiled softly at her former colleagues. "Good morning," she announced, her voice clear and strong. "I'm the new co-owner." The man who tried to humiliate her, who saw her as nothing more than a target for his prejudice, lost his job, his reputation, and his power. He vanished into obscurity. And the woman he dismissed as just a waitress rose from the ashes of his hatred to become the boss, the queen of her own castle. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes karma doesn't need to shout to be heard. Sometimes it just whispers, and with quiet precision, it delivers justice in the most unexpected and satisfying ways. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story of justice and empowerment, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more true karma stories. We'll see you in the next one.